3 QPR goals, 2 comebacks from behind and a first victory in 5. Queen's Park Rangers finally returned to winning ways on a rainy Saturday afternoon at Loftus Road, with Rumarn Burrell's 66th-minute winner edging a 5-goal thriller, and as always, there is plenty for us to discuss. If you're new to the channel, my name's Connor, aka Hoopsa, and I cover all things QPR, so if you enjoy this match reaction, make sure to hit like and subscribe, and let's get straight into it. Julian Stephan made an unusually modest 2 changes to his pre-international break starting 11, and while Reece Norrington-Davies was an expected return for Sandfield at left-back, Jake Clarke-Salter's first start since Leicester City away on the 11th of January was a much bigger surprise. Having twice been pulled early from his starts for the development squad in recent weeks, here he was being cast straight into the fire from the outset. Over on the opposite side of the backline, Amadou Mbenge and Jimmy Dunn's inversion was retained after a successful trial run away at Sheffield United, but further forwards we saw an identical midfield and attack despite multiple players having returned later in the week from international duty. With Stephan having told the press both before and after this game that every outfield R was available for selection, the bench made for interesting reading too, with Ryan Colley's inclusion the most notable having not been named as sub since Millwall, and both Isaac Hayden and Kwame Poku the eye-catching exclusions. The match itself was very much one of 2 different halves for Rangers, the first in particular a more familiar story as far as recent home displays go. That's because while it was the R's that would dominate the game's early efforts, 5 without interruption, it would be Hull City that would break the deadlock with their first and only of the half on 17 minutes. QPR could have easily gone ahead on 6 minutes when a quickly worked throw-in down the left saw Clarke-Salter whipping a cracking delivery to find Burrell unattended in the 6-yard box, but Hull goalkeeper Ivor Panda reacted quickly to block the shot with his foot, and Ryan Giles did even better to block Richard Kone's follow-up. A much improved Karamoko Dembele could have been an early hero on 13 minutes when he slalomed past 2 defenders in the box, but he wrongly chose to shoot from an ambitious angle when a cutback onto the penalty spot would have been much preferred. Despite the home side's early efforts though, a misplaced Kone pass on 17 minutes under very little pressure is all it took for the visitors to take the lead. Regan Slater allowed to then drive forward unopposed by Jonathan Varane before playing Joe Gelhardt into the box for a near post finish that shouldn't be beating any professional goalkeeper regardless of how long they haven't played for. It wasn't too much of a shock because, as I say, this does seem to be a recurring problem for QPR at home. We dominate the opening minutes with several nearly moments, could and should be ahead, but once the opposition get on the ball, it's really only 1 or 2 chances they need, and they'll rarely have to work that hard to make them. I think this comes down to a couple of things. Firstly, we don't really press backlines at home, even with 2 strikers on the pitch. All of Ipswich, Southampton and Hull centre-backs have all been allowed to carry the ball to the halfway line, and presumably deliberately, Burrell nor Kone are rarely within touching distance. That quite often makes it feel like we're not the team at home here. The other is, and for however many years we've all been saying it, our midfield. Off the ball, we're played through far too easily, and on it, when trying to build from the back, our centre mids are not interested in collecting the ball. The first 3 or 4 times Varane was picked out by Hamer, he passed it straight back to him, and it's a confusing one because Varane does have the ability to turn and play us forwards, as he eventually did for the equaliser on 38 minutes. If he could do that even 2 or 3 times more in a game, I think things would play out very differently. QPR, to their credit though, did get their heads down quickly in search of a leveller. Elias Chair, who was exceptional throughout this match, picked out Kone with a delicious cross into the box, but the Ivorian headed well over the bar. It's very easy to forget he's only 22 sometimes and he's still adapting to a new level after a rapid ascendancy through professional football, but he is going to need a goal or a rest sooner rather than later to really kick on, I think. One big win from Stephan's recent tweets has been Mbenge at right back, who not only looks incredibly comfortable defending on the flank, having deputised there for Reading in the past, but also a welcome threat going forwards, as he demonstrated on half an hour when he bombarded his way upfield with the ball before it was steered out for a corner, and he would go on to play his part in the equaliser 10 minutes later. It began with Clarke-Salter winning the ball back well, Nicholas Madsen cutting the ball across to Varane, and the Martinique midfielder finally playing the ball forwards through the middle. Dembele drove forwards towards goal, but presented with a more than acceptable chance to shoot, he chose to slip in Kone. The striker looked for a quick 1-2 as the defence closed in on him, and Caddy's resulting shot was blocked, but the surging Mbenge had finally arrived to strike low from distance. His shot was blocked too, but it fell perfectly for Elias Chair, who stabbed it home for his first of the season. Hungry for more, QPR's number 10 then stole a wayward pass from Slater just a minute later, cutting inside for a trademark shot from range to force another save. Having gone in level at the break, the first half pattern repeated itself within just 10 minutes of the game resuming. Burrell and Chair were up first, the Jamaican forward shot saved from a tight angle, and the Moroccans' effort blocked outside the box. On 55 minutes, minutes though, again from seemingly nowhere, the Tigers reinstated their lead. Not a single Ars player fancying getting within 5 yards of the league's biggest creator, allowing him to plant one on the head of Enes Destan, who ghosted past Clark Salter with ease and nodded past Hamer. At the time, honestly, it felt like a pretty damning moment for Stefan and this QPR side. Why can't we stop conceding at home? Why do we find it so hard to consistently dominate in games? And where do we go from here if we lose again? But in retrospect, it's almost the best thing that could have happened, because not only did we then get one of the best sustained periods of attacking football we've seen at home this season, but we saw a fire in these players' bellies, a recognition that they needed to put this situation right. And within just 4 minutes, the game was even once more. Burrell had a good chance after Destan's, Mabenge collecting the ball at the back and playing a hungry Dembele into midfield, who picked out Rumarn in the box for a blocked shot at the near post. Chair was up next, first with another shot from the edge of the area blocked, and then a fantastic square to him across the box from Mabenge, impressively cleared by Lewis Coyle. From the resulting corner though, Chair would add an assist to his goal. Him and Norrington Davies keeping Madsen's delivery alive before Chair cut the ball back for Dunn, to dink in one of the most impressive weak foot efforts I've seen in a long time. Chair and his Rangers teammates did not stop there. Having had a vicious delivery from the left block just seconds earlier, his next pivoted shot in the box was once again denied, only for it to sneak through the cracks perfectly into the path of Burrell to coolly slot home the winner. With most of us assuming it was offside at the time, it probably didn't get quite the celebrations it deserved, but that didn't make it any less sweet. Stefan made his next subs on 72 minutes, the young duo of Morgan and Colley sent on in place of Mabenge and Kone. The head coach has spoken a lot about these players taking their chances when they finally get them, and I have to say I thought they both very much did. Morgan impressing with his progressive passing down the right and a meaty tackle in front of the Stamboul stand, and Colley finding plenty of promising spaces in attack. That's not to say it was completely plain sailing to the final whistle though. Hull, to their credit, were exceptional at working the gaps on the counter, and when Giles was allowed to swing in another perfect cross on 77 minutes, 3-3 looked inevitable until Kyle Joseph's shot was immensely denied by Hamer. Varane then hoovered up the aftermath, a perfect demonstration of where his skill set really excels, and he nearly set Rangers off on a promising counter of their own as he charged into midfield, but his decision to slow down play and inexplicably still find a way to pass backwards thankfully didn't end up proving costly. With Koki Saito joining the pitch on 79 minutes for Dembele though, the Ars would still yet have more chances to add a fourth. The Japanese winger's first incisive cutback was misread by his fellow attack, but his next on 81 minutes after a dazzling bending through ball from Morgan down the right allowed him to find Colley with time and space on the penalty spot, only for his fellow sub to falter and have his well-placed shot in the bottom right read by Panda. Soon enough though, the whistle sounded for full time and Rangers' double comeback was rewarded with a full 3 points. Before this match, I was chatting with my dad and my mate about how I felt this game was going to be a turning point for good or for bad. And with the fight back we saw and that relentless second half attacking performance, I truly hope it's one for good. With 26 shots and an XG of 3.02, QPR had the 4th best expected output in English football this weekend, all while still having just 42.2% possession, as has been a consistent trademark of any win we've claimed this season. It shows when this Rangers side really go for it, there is a lot to be excited about, and if we can find a way to cut out these basic mistakes, we'll go toe-to-toe with any team in this division on our day. What we'll be telling now, I think, is how Stefan chooses to navigate the next 2 games of this 3-game week. I was really pleasantly surprised to see just 2 changes from Sheffield United away, especially after the international break, and while I expect there to be some more rotations on Wednesday night, I'd be very surprised after all if we risk Clark Salter twice in a row, and Dembele looked pretty leggy by the time he was subbed. But I want to see this lineup get more and more time together on the pitch, because I think that's the only way they start to learn to iron out some of the problems. Anyway, that's all from me. What did you think of this performance? I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to the channel and you'd like to see more content, please consider hitting like and subscribe, and maybe I'll see you for my next match preview. Cheers!